Welcome to Brands Hatch for the Toyo Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship. Championship leader Gary Lawrence starts in second position for the first of this weekend's races, and even though the grids are small, the racing is very close, so it's going to be exciting to see what happens, particularly in the mixed conditions that are out there today. It's over to Richard John Neal to take you through all of the race one action.
Cheers, Lloyd. As you heard, Andrew Porter on pole position, Anthony Hutchins alongside. Row 2, Gary Lawrence, the championship leader. Lee Bowden is back with us. He is fourth on the grid from Nick Hull. The 924s headed by Peter Smith and then Chris Valentine, with John Jones having his first wet race, we're told, at the back in red. Green flag from the back of the field. Very tricky conditions. This is going to be an interesting race for sure as the lights go out. Looking right the way down the field. Good start pretty much from everybody in slippery conditions, and a great start from Gary Lawrence. The second row of the grid goes up into P2. Anthony Hutchins is down to third. Nick Hull busy challenging him in the blue 44 car. In car with Nick Hull. Hutchins is going to be careful there because he's got his wheels on the dirt as Gary Lawrence goes up into second place. Anthony Hutchins from the front row. Good qualifying from Anthony, who goes wide opposite, locking around Druids. You can see how tricky it is. The outfield shot gives you a little bit of an idea, but the onboard there from Nick Hull really showing you how difficult conditions are here. Lee Bowden's made a good start in the 16. Well, started well, he's still fourth as Anthony Hutchins goes on the gas and spins it around on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. Thankfully, the car stops before the barrier. So the only damage, I think, is to Anthony Hutchins' pride. He will have raced here several times, of course, in the Mazda Championship. This is the second visit also, of course, of the season to Brands Hatch. Anthony Hutchins was fifth and fifth in the opening visit of the season, but getting away out front, Andrew Porter got away well, looking for win at number 3 of the season. In this, the 12th race of the season, as Lee Bowden goes down on the inside of championship leader Gary Lawrence. Gary will, of course, be thinking about the bigger picture in terms of the championship points, but he can't afford to drop too many to Andrew Porter, who is not that far behind in terms of the total scores and indeed on drops. Remember the scenario we were discussing at Croft. Gary's had 2 retirements now, Andrew Porter just the 1, so Porter will drop slightly more points. But fascinating stuff going on at the moment with Bowden in black challenging Nick Hull, who he's back in the normal 44 car, and the car at the moment, is it behaving itself? They're losing a little bit of ground on Andrew Porter, the race leader. The 924s are headed by Peter Smith at the moment from Chris Valentine. John Jones is back. Peter Smith having his first race, I understand, here at Brands Hatch. So Peter, I know we spoke to him in the interviews at Croft Circuit back at the beginning of July. Was looking forward to this round. I think we were all looking forward to it being hot and sunny, and then, wouldn't you know it, we get a break in the weather and it absolutely teams down and makes very difficult conditions. It always makes great racing as Bowden looks to the inside line of Nick Hull and goes through into second place. Gary Lawrence follows from listening to the engine out on Nick Hull's car. I think that's got the cutout problem that it had at Croft in qualifying, and the car does not look happy. Through goes Peter Smith. Come on, Nick, keep it going up the hill. It's not going to make it any further up, so fires it up again. Reboot might be in order as John Jones goes through in the 639 car. We missed John at Croft, but great to have him back. He's been ever present on the podium since round 3 at Snetterton. And Jones with Pete Smith vying for second and third in the championship. We don't have the championship leader Hugh Pert with us this weekend. Hugh having time off for good behaviour. Multiple winner. Pete Smith, of course, unbeaten apart from 1 race at Croft round 9, the opening race at Croft Circuit, which was held in beautiful weather. And the thing you'll notice here is that the car's not sharing track time this time, so back to a clear track and exclusively Toyo Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship Racing as Anthony Hutchins goes up the hill in lead position and looking good. I think, if anything, the track is beginning to dry slightly. There is Lee Bowden in second. Lee, of course, the production Boxster champion from last year. We don't have any production Boxsters now, and it's always been the case that the production class, when it was introduced, when John Clark was looking after the championship a good few years ago, Steve Potts was the first champion. Steve's son, incidentally, Steve is here this weekend looking after his son Ted, who's racing in the BRSCC Junior Championship. Steve Potts was the first champion, but the idea was, as you watch Gary Lawrence challenging for second place, the idea was, of course, entry level. If you didn't want to come in the classic 924s, come in a production version of the Boxster, and then maybe move up to the, as they were then called, the full fat version, as they used to be nicknamed. And we've had a number of very good champions over the years. As we look on board from Chris Valentine, Chris has got a good view. The camera hasn't, because the wife are doing a good job for Chris, keeping the race leader in check at the moment. So Peter Smith, the leader in the 924s, and Chris Valentine doing a super job in the wet of trying to close in on the man in the 18 car, Peter Smith, who is looking to bag another race win to add to his cannon and try and close in on Hugh Pert in the championship. Peter missed the first two events here at Brands Hatch and the second one at Snetterton. Brands was a doubleheader, Snetterton 3 races. Chris Valentine closing up actually on the race leader, who goes wide, and Chris has got him in his sights here and starting to try and bring the gap down in the wet. And this is a good race for the lead of the 924s. I'll go back to talking about the productions. You did have the choice, and indeed you do still have the choice, of going 924 Classic as an entry level, or maybe coming into productions. We do get a lot of new drivers coming into the Supersport Boxster category as well. But if that proves too expensive, you can do 924 or production. And at the moment we don't have any production runners. Andy Baker, twice production champion a couple of years before. And it's sort of been a victim of its own success, because the drivers that have come in have moved on. It's a little bit like junior racing categories, where you have to renew the roster every 2 or 3 years for juniors, and you almost have to do that with productions as well. And a lot of people, particularly in the first couple of seasons of production racing, saying, well, you know, why tie a lot of money up putting a production car together, not a lot of money, but a reasonable amount, when you can just pop a little bit more on and enjoy the super sport. So that's tended to be what's happened over the years, as we ride with Chris Valentine, who's showing some great confidence and great driving here in second position, keeping the leaders in sight. Not surprised, because that's what he did in the opening stages at Croft, closing in, taking a good apex there as he goes through Druids, heading up towards 1/3 distance of this race. Of course, you'll know the BRSCC format is 20-minute races. That is generally the case, unless there's an issue with timetable or anything else, and that will include any safety car operations as well in the race. So it's track time rather than 20 minutes racing time. A few brave-hearted souls there in the stand. I'll tell you what, getting their money's worth here. Watching Chris Valentine trying to close down on the race leader. Chris qualifying second, holding his own very well. We'll look back and see if we can see John Jones anywhere. John, a little way behind at the moment, but still on for some decent points. It will be, I think, 9.5 points for third place, assuming he gets to the finish. So that will keep him reasonably close to Pete Smith in the championship, and possibly ahead of Chris Valentine as well. Here is Lee Bowden. We're not seeing too much of Andrew Porter at the moment, the race leader, but we are very much looking at the potential battle for second position of Gary Lawrence, who is the championship leader, the winningest driver. I hate that phrase, but I think I'll use it anyway, in this year's championship. Gary, who was double winner at Croft, picked up his first win of the season at Snetterton. Lee Bowden's only done 2 races, but has had 2 podia, so second position here, potentially his best Supersport Boxster result, and he's looking quite handy for that at the moment through Clark Curve. Gary Lawrence has got the difficult thing of getting closer and then having to deal with the spray, so you might see Lawrence, as he tries to get closer, just move out of the spray to improve visibility. Here's our race leader, Andrew Porter, the man from Knaresborough, second in the championship. And those two, Lawrence and Porter, clear of Nick Hull, who's third in the standings at the moment. Anthony Hutchins from Rye is next up. We missed Anthony at the Cadwell Park round, but it's been an ever-present since then. And the 33 car, I tell you what, despite leading this race, the lap time's fairly comparable between Porter, Gary Lawrence and Anthony Hutchins. and also Lee Bowden as well. So they're all putting in pretty good laps. The only man who's suffered here in race 4 is the 44 car, Nick Hull, who just can't seem to get his car fired up. We'll hope that it gets cured for race 2, but remains to be seen about that. But Andrew Porter still there out front. Now remember that the fastest lap does gain the extra point for fastest lap, and that can make the difference between getting second and third place points. If you finish third, you get the bonus point, and that equals the same points as second place here. So when we've got a slightly smaller field and the reduced points available, the fastest lap comes into play even more in terms of the championship. This stage of the season as well, if you're dropping a lower score, it might be preferential to drop a lower score, a slightly reduced entry at this stage of the season than a higher one when we got 4 grids earlier on. So Andrew Porter, the race leader, is building up a good lead at the moment and looking handy for another visit to the top step of the podium here at Brands. Now having to maybe contend with a bit of traffic because John Jones is looming for Andrew Porter, our race leader, and Andrew has driven faultlessly so far. He will now have that 924 in his sights. May well have to deal with a little bit of spray as well, so some care probably needs to be exercised once he puts the pass on the classic car. This is again a scenario that we expect. Great driving from 639 John Jones, moves to the outside line at Paddock Hill Bend, doesn't cause any potential problems at all for the race leader Andrew Porter, who nips through on the inside safely on his way and looking for win number 3 of the 2019 season. So still Porter out front. John Jones, incidentally, the red 94 that you saw, still running in third place in the classic 924s, which were, as I've told you many times, the originators of this championship back in 1992. In car with Nick Hull, who is still gamely going on. I don't think it is as wet as it was, but drivers won't take too much consolation from that. He goes down into Paddock Hill Bend. Now near the apex, he's going to get not too close to the apex because Anthony Hutchins is coming back. So Hutchins moves through into 4th place. Indeed, Nick wasn't a lap down, and the car having issues again. You can see going up Halewoods Hill. And what's he going to do? Is he going to pull over on the infield, or is he going to fire it up again? Let's hope he can. It's stopped there. You can see the marshals waving the yellows. The race leader Andrew Porter goes through, so give us a perspective on how far behind Gary Lawrence is. And do you know what? Nick Hull's done the right thing there. Just drops it back onto the grass, pretty much out of harm's way. The marshals might usher him a little bit further away. That is if Nick can't start the car up and maybe get it back to the safety pit lane. But that doesn't look a happy Supersport Boxster at the moment for Nick Hull, who is in danger of losing more championship points. Here's the battle for the 924s though, and it is still Peter Smith out front, but coming under pressure once again from Chris Valentine, 4th in the championship last year, looks after the media for the PDA. And Peter Smith still out front. Chris Valentine though, at the halfway stage of the race, is as close as he has been all through. Peter Smith holding his own at the minute on his first visit to Brands. Chris Valentine trying to close down on him. Let's see whether he can pile a little bit of pressure on by getting closer. A good line through clearways. Coming to clearways now, then onto Clark Curve and Brandon Straight. A smooth style from Valentine to come through Clark Curve. Now past the entrance to the pit lane there on the right hand side along the straight. Pick up any pit signals if there are any. We've got 1 or 2 people on the pit wall just telling our drivers how things are going. Peter Smith holds on to the lead. This will make it 3 wins in succession for Peter Smith, having had second position in the first race at Croft. Race winning that one going to Hugh Pert, getting himself back on the top step of the podium. Valentine closes up again under braking and around Druid. Let's see if he can maintain the the gap, or even close the gap to Peter Smith. It looks like it's equidistant at the moment to where it was on the previous lap as they go down through Graham Hill Bend, along Cooper Straight, up into the left-hander at Surtees. Still the prospect of this challenge for the lead happening, but Peter Smith is really soaking up pressure at the moment from Chris Valentine in second place. This is as good as a race as I've seen at the sharp end for Chris Valentine, so he did keep the leaders in sight for a long while at Croft. As we flick to second place, Gary Lawrence, 2 retirements so far. Other than that, has not finished lower when he has finished, not finished lower than second place, so he's had 5 wins, 2 retirements and 4 second places. Lee Bowden not that far behind. And Lee's lap time's none too shabby either, so it's Porter, Lawrence and Bowden in the Supersport boxes with Anthony Hutchins in 4th place. And Smith from Valentine and Jones in the classic 924s at the moment, as we're heading into the closing stages of this one. Just on the timing screen, try and work this out. 20-minute race, we might get another 2 laps or a lap and a maybe 1, we'll see. The last lap board will go out at the appropriate juncture by the organisers. Gary Lawrence goes across the line once again. Still Andrew Porter out front. By my money, the circuit is drying out slightly because the lap times are starting to come down, and Gary Lawrence is actually getting closer and closer to Andrew Porter. The gap between Lawrence and Lee Bowden is out to about 5 seconds now. You can see Bowden in the black Supersport box at the back of shot, as Gary Lawrence now racing himself with the clock. He'll want the fastest lap if he can get it, but he goes along Cooper Straight. Let's have a look. He's now got the leader in sight, so Andrew Porter is being caught by Gary Lawrence, but is this too late? I know it's a bit weird to say that the track's drying because it still looks very wet, but the timing screen is giving us the story that things are getting quicker. There goes Andrew Porter, the leader. Gary Lawrence is perhaps beginning to sense a bit of blood here, and it is largely between these two for the championship. It is a big gap between the pair, but Porter was not in sight a couple of laps ago. Gary Lawrence now will feel that towards the closing stages of this race, a challenge could be mounted. He's really got the bit between his teeth and he's closing in, setting faster and faster laps. Porter looked the happier in the wetter stages of the race. It's still wet, so they've all proved their mettle in the wet conditions. And look at that, Lawrence looking for the grip on the outside line on the entry into Druids, and he's still closing in on Andrew Porter, the race leader. This is fascinating stuff. The Knaresborough man leading the Devon-based driver in second place. Lawrence is definitely closing in, but is there going to be enough time, because the 20 minutes is ticking down rather quickly? It is still Porter who is the race leader. I reckon that this is going to be a lot closer than it is now at the tail end of it, and it's going to be nip and tuck as to when the last lap board checkered flag goes out. Here they come, P1 and P2. Andrew Porter looking for win number 3. It's surely, with the time left on the clock, surely it's going to be okay for Andrew Porter, who will go across the line once again. Lap times here are around about just under 70 seconds. It was the same in qualifying, and look at Gary Lawrence, he's closing more and more. I think he might well run out of time. Lee Bowden still there in third place, he's getting quicker as well. Anthony Hutchins, after his spin on Cooper Straight, is still trying to catch up with the 924s, but still running in fourth place. But what a fascinating race this has been. We haven't seen wheel-to-wheel stuff, but when you've got a pursuit race on the go, and we've got that too in the 924s, Chris Valentine, I think, is closer to Peter Smith here as they splash through the bottom of Halewoods Hill up into Druids. He definitely gets closer every time here at Druids, and he's really piling the pressure on Peter Smith. But Peter's been in this position before, and remember, has 5 wins to his credit so far this year. But look, it is definitely closer. This is the battle now for the lead in the 924s, and Chris off goes Pete Smith, under pressure. Peter Smith spins. He doesn't. Anthony Hutchins there, and Chris Valentine has got the lead. He was putting the pressure on. Valentine's got the lead. Can he hold on? We are now on to the last lap. It's going to be a shade after 20 minutes when they take the checkered flag, and that'll be the race. And look at Gary Lawrence. He has caught Andrew Porter over the closing stage. It was virtually the length of the straight lead that he had, but Lawrence has chipped away. Porter, of course, won't have wanted to have thrown anything away. They go past the point on the circuit where Pete Smith had his gyration. Pete's got going again, still in second place, still ahead of Anthony Hutchins, who is in fourth place for the Supersport Boxsters. I think he's going to run out of time here, Gary Lawrence, but he is closing up much closer than he was earlier on in the race. And Lawrence, who qualified third, won't be too dissatisfied with the second place, but he's closing up. Is he going to have a run to the flag and maybe get to the outside? Surely that gap is too big for even Gary Lawrence to close up on. It's Andrew Porter who holds his nerve and takes the checkered flag from Gary Lawrence in second place. Lee Bowden has got the fastest lap. He will take third. He set that on the penultimate lap, Lee Bowden. You just saw Anthony Hutchins go through shot. Anthony very nearly a lap down. He's got to do another tour, but Gary Lawrence is going to pull up level here with Andrew Porter and give thumbs up, I'm sure. Porter got away in the early stages. That race really did tell a story, didn't it? Superb stuff from the Porsche Racing Drivers Association and the Toyo Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship with Andrew Porter. All the threes, the third win for car number 33. Gary Lawrence, superb drive, particularly in the closing stages on a marginally drying track. It's amazing how just a slight change saw the track and the car and the driving come to Gary Lawrence to close in on the race leader. I think they're still racing by the look of it, but the checkout has gone out. I'm not sure whether they saw it or not. Are they still going for it? We'll have to get the story from them after the race. There goes Anthony Hutchins, who finishes in fourth position in the Supersport Boxsters, and Chris Valentine. Our congratulations to Chris. They're taking the win in the 924. So it's Andrew Porter for Gary Lawrence and Lee Bowden. Chris Valentine winning 924 for Pete Smith. Anthony Hutchins fourth in Supersport. John Jones third in the 924s.
Race 2 in the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. Chris Valentine and Peter Smith in the 924s are going to be looking to resume their battle from yesterday. But up front, it's Andrew Porter ahead of championship leader Gary Lawrence. This is going to be an exciting battle. It's over to Richard to take you through it.
It will, Lloyd. It will be another very good race. Sadly, we don't have Nick Hull, but front row, as you said, Andrew Porter and Gary Lawrence. Lee Bowden, fastest lap in race 1. Anthony Hutchins next to him. 924s, Chris Valentine on pole position after his maiden win. Then it was Pete Smith and John Jones in third. Much better conditions, as you can see. So getting ready for 20 minutes of Porsche action. Lights are out and away they go. A great start by Andrew Porter, like a slingshot. Anthony Hutchins from row 2 tries to go around the outside line of Gary Lawrence. Lee Bowden to the inside line. John Jones has had a good start in the 924s. Great start from 6 through 9 John Jones, who goes through paddock, but it's the race 1 winner Chris Valentine who gets ahead of him on the run up to Druids through Paddock Hill Bend and up Hayward Hill into Druids. On the inside line it's Pete Smith challenging for second position, and Smith gets that. So Jones down to third. I think he'll be a lot happier. I think we're all a bit happier actually about the weather now being so much drier. Who'd have thought it in the hottest summer that we've had for a good while. Chris Valentine, first win. That's the magic of any racing championship when you get a first time winner. These two were close. Lee Bowden, fastest lap in race number 1. Anthony Hutchins did a good recovery. Sadly, we don't have Nick Hull, as we said. Nick will be watching this one and cheering his PDA colleagues on as Anthony Hutchins looks at the inside line of Lee Bowden to challenge for third. Since the ex-Mazda race the first season, Lee Bowden third season with us, having won the productions. to go in the Class A car at Donington Park at the end of last year. And a good battle there with Anthony Hutchins going on, but Hutchins in third place in red, white, blue. If they squabble too much, they'll probably lose a little bit of ground on the top too. So Andrew Porter it is who is looking for a double in this one. By my reckoning, after race number 1, as Pete Smith continues to chase Chris Valentine, by my reckoning in the Supersport Boxsters, Gary Lawrence leads on total points scored. Bear in mind he's had 2 retirements by 1,472, 142, 5-point championship lead, with Nick Hull third still on 116.5 points. Then Anthony Hutchins 95, Lee Bowden 77. So those two fighting out for 4th in the championship, and possibly the chance to edge closer to Nick Hull. There is Chris Valentine, still the leader, who's looking to try and get up into 3rd place in the championship. It's going to have to be, maybe at this stage, reliant on retirements from Smith and Jones to get up to P3 in the championship, because it's Hugh Pert, championship leader, and Hugh will retain that. This will most likely be Hugh's top scores because he hasn't had any DNFs, and 2 races here at Brands Hatch this weekend, as the Supersport Boxsters continue to fight. Anthony Hutchins getting away from Lee Bowden, who looked very good in the wet, you have to say, with that fastest lap. And again, without wanting to harp on about it, it was exceedingly wet at the start, and it dried out, but it was still wet, and everybody showed terrific skill in wet conditions. Porsche and wet conditions probably the combination that most racing drivers would want to avoid, but they delivered in bucket loads, and that's probably a correct phrase given the weather that we had. But it's all dry now, and it's all okay, and Andrew Porter is out front from Gary Lawrence, who will be keen to get a win, and of course the bonus point for the fastest lap if he can do that. So Lawrence closed in big time, didn't he, on that previous race, and running in P2 here. Can he take the battle closer to Andrew Porter? Hutchins still running in 3rd from Lee Bowden. So Bowden again picking up a 3rd place, a 3rd position of the year, but down in 4th position at the moment behind Anthony Hutchins, who has had 2 podia, one in round 5, 21st of April at Snetterton, the other one 3rd place at Croft, round 11. This is round 13, or 12A, as my superstitious colleagues who used to coordinate the championship called it. Here's the view from the race leader, Andrew Porter. Always a great onboard shot here at Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit. And the rear-facing camera would give us the green looming large of Gary Lawrence, the championship leader still, but it is very close between these two. Opens up slightly, I think, after the drop scores. As we said, 147.142 on total points scored. And I'm not that much of a mathematician to start working out the drop score points in between races, so we will have to when we get into the closing stages of the season. But this one a double header, which is almost a little bit of a breather for these cars. We've had a gap between Cadwell Park and Croft. Cadwell was on the 12th of May as Pete Smith closes up on Chris Valentine. This for the lead of the Classic 924s. Chris Valentine there at the moment. Smith going wide on the exit out of Clearways through the Clark Curve onto the Brabham Straight. He's going to maybe go for the burn up round the outside. Has he got good momentum? He's looking for the inside line. Is Valentine going to cut across and grab that? Valentine's got very good pace along the straight, maintains the race lead. And we go back on board with Andrew Porter, the race leader, who is passed by Gary Lawrence. Lawrence is through on the outside along Cooper Straight on the outside into Surtees. That was a superb move. Remember Nick Hull's move on the outside as well at Brands Hatch round 1. Just had a flashback to that. But we've seen some great overtaking here from the PDA drivers in both events here at Brands Hatch. And that was a good one by Gary Lawrence. Was there a mistake, I wonder? We didn't see the build-up to that from Andrew Porter, but Gary Lawrence looking to make it 1 apiece here. And to Andrew Porter, that could be a wake-up call. Let's see what his response is going to be. Losing a position is one thing, but then we have to see how the driver reacts in terms of getting it back. He's not being lost at the moment by Gary Lawrence, but Lawrence, of course, will gain a huge amount of confidence having done that. 1/3 distance of our 20-minute race at the moment. The wet race lasted for 17 laps. Not quite sure, just trying to work out how many more we get with the lap speeds that they're doing. They're under the minute here. We were talking about 70-second laps in race number 1, as closing in big time there again was Andrew Porter in response. In car with Chris Valentine up to Druids, and there through on the inside line, finding a gap, finding the race lead is Peter Smith, but runs wide and manages to just chop across in front of Chris Valentine. Chris will have a look as they go down into Graham Hill Bend, see if he can get back. But Peter Smith, that's where he had the moment that cost him so dearly in race number 1. Smith back in the lead. We'll see whether Chris can hold sway and keep up with the number 18. This is going to be absolutely key for Smith. This could see him, I'm just thinking about the mass of this, if he stays where he is, if John Jones stays where he is, they will be tied on points, because Smith's got the fastest lap of the race as well at the moment, so they'll be tied for second place in the championship. But that's all provisional, as we watch Chris Valentine, who will close into around about 7.6.5 points of second position, if it stays the way it is at the moment. But it may not do, because Chris Valentine has not given up the ghost at the moment. He is taking the challenge back to Peter Smith, a fine 9.24 battle. Remember, this heritage of 9.24 is going back to Rudy Bott, 1992 champion. We had Richard Lloyd, Michael Neuhoff in 94, Paul Stevens, Jerry Taylor, probably the driver who we see on the list of the earlier list of champions who raced later in the day in the championships, alongside the likes of Rick Styring in the Boxsters when they were going. But some great champions over the years who have moved on to other things and done so exceedingly well, having used the original 924 Championship as a great platform to take their racing elsewhere, including the likes of Mark McAleer, who guested in the 924s, I think was it 2 or 3 seasons ago, and is now racing in the Class 1 Porsche Club Championship, which he won as well, having taken his apprenticeship here, as Andrew Porter tries to close in again on Gary Lawrence. So from what we saw earlier on, Lawrence didn't surrender the lead or lose the lead, but might do so now. Porter having a look up the inside line, Gary leaving a little bit of a gap there as he goes into Druids, and that's an invitation, isn't it, to the second place driver to have a look and maybe have a little nibble at going through on the inside line. It's the 997 incident that's being driven currently by double champion Mark McAleer, double X924 champion Mark McAleer. That's what he's racing these days, with his son Jake racing in his old 996. And the battle of the Boxsters continues, and again a gaping hole there by Gary Lawrence, and through is going to come Andrew Porter. So we're going to see a lead swap again, or are we? Because they're side by side, and Lawrence likes the outside line. He might well fight, but he will fight back and see. But Porter, I think, has got the job completed as they go into Paddock Hill Bend and reclaims the lead. Superb racing here once again between these two, and Gary Lawrence has got to do all the work again to try and get back past Andrew Porter as we approach the half distance of this race. Super stuff. I did worry about Gary Lawrence though, because he left, he was quite confident really. Right, say about leaving a hole, it was a confident line going into Druids, which is where the 3rd and 4th place battle is going on as well. Look at Lee Bowden chasing Anthony Hutchins here. So Bowden, reigning production champion, learning his super sport craft here superbly and battling for a podium position with ex-Mazda racer Anthony Hutchins. Had the same livery in the Mazdas, if you remember that, the massed ranks of the Mark 1 Mazdas. And obviously got the flavour for the Porsches, often sharing the bill with that class. So running well. A little bit of drift at the moment of Porter and Lawrence, who are away and down the road. It's still Peter Smith leading in the 924s from Chris Valentine, John Jones in 3rd. But it's going to set us up for a fascinating battle next time in all the classes, particularly if Nick Hull can get sorted out in the 44 car, which we hope he will. Down the hill into Graham Hill Bend, Anthony Hutchins starting to pull out a little bit of a gap at the moment over the number 16 car of Lee Bowden in 4th place. All of the Supersport Boxsters incidentally lapping within less than a second of each other. It's Andrew Porter set his best lap on lap 7. It's about a third of the way into the race, 54.448, 77.18 miles per hour. Here's the view from Porter, about to nip past on the inside line of Chris Valentine, who you can see has lost a wee bit of ground on Peter Smith. If we look ahead, there's Pete Smith now, the 924 class leader, who will be the focus now for the race leader Andrew Porter. What we can't see is how far behind Gary Lawrence is. I suspect it won't be too far. It was half a second at the end of race number 1. We're approaching half distance here in race 2, round 13 of the championship. Closing in on Pete Smith, as we expect the Supersport boxers to do. Boxers running with the additional aero as well, which gives the drivers a unique experience of their Boxster racing. Porter closing in on the lead 924. Is he going to make the pass at Paddock Hill Bend? He does again. Super racing by the 924, seeing the faster cars come through, keeping to the outside line. Here's the battle for third place. Anthony Hutchins still there at the moment, behind Gary Lawrence, but ahead of Lee Bowden. And the third place scrap, I get the feeling this is going to go all the way to the checkered flag, which we'll have at the end of part 2 after this. Part 2 of race 2 here, which is round 13 of the 2019 Toyo Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship. It's the battle for third place, and it is a battle again now because Anthony Hutchins has been closed in on by Lee Bowden, who would dearly love to bag another podium here. Podium number 5 of the season and of his career in the Supersport Boxsters in his first season of racing in this particular class, having won the Production Championship last year. Superseding double champion Andy Baker. Michael Goodacre won the productions in 2015. Jason Flegg the year before that. Rebecca Jackson in 2013. And as we mentioned earlier on in the show, Stephen Potts the inaugural champion. In terms of the Supersport Boxsters, Dave Clark was double champion in the first 2 years, 2010, 2011. Rick Styron double champion 2012, 2013. Then Jonathan Greensmith. Ed Hayes also double champion, not in consecutive years though, as we ride with Chris Valentine. Looks like the GoPro needs a little bit of a tighten up. It's a common problem, but Chris still chasing and running in a good second place here, Chris Valentine. And that will be a second place of the season to add to his win, as through goes Anthony Hutchins. Watch for Lee Bowden as well. This is good inside line hugging at the moment, Chris Valentine, who, that's the tricky part of the track, to be a car that's being passed, to be honest with you, and he kept to the inside line. It was super driving again, great driving standards from the 924s, and Chris Valentine holding the inside line so the Supersport Boxsters dicing for third could go past. Still out front though is Andrew Porter after an exchange of lead with Gary Lawrence, who's still in second place. 33 car looking to notch up win number 4. Gary Lawrence still not that far behind at half distance and setting decent laps as Gary Lawrence, and again improving lap times as he did, maybe finding a little bit of rhythm in his racing as the race leader goes through Clark Curve. But the upper hand at the moment is with Porter, who, now let me work this one out. Porter will close to within 4 points, I reckon, if it stays like this. So it's going to be very, very close as we head to the next round. Nothing to choose between those two drivers. Again, that's on total points rather than on drops. Gary Lawrence has 2 non-finishes, so Porter will drop a few more points as we head towards the end of the season. But and they do look at both scenarios. I remember having a conversation with Max Coates in Clio Cup, and he'd lost the overall lead, and he said, yeah, but I'm still leading on drops. And the drivers do have that in their mind. I'm not sure whether these guys do, but a lot of drivers do. So Gary Lawrence still trying to close in. Andrew Porter, the leader, I think he might actually be closing in a little bit. And we've got John Jones in the red 924, who goes to the outside line. John doesn't cause any problems at all. Look at that, here we are on board with John, sticking to the left. Allows the race lead through. Porter's through nicely. Looks for Gary Lawrence to go through as well. There's Gary just on the run. That fell about right for those two boys, and it allows John Jones to go and grab the racing line at the apex there at Paddock Hill Bend, down the hill, up Haywards Hill, into Druids. John still running in third place. And some useful points in the offing here. No retirees in this one as well, so although Nick Hull didn't start, everybody else is still running, which is good. John Jones in the ex-Ryan Lowry car, which was third in the championship in 2017. Gary Lawrence closing up bit by bit. This is almost a rerun of race one, but without the wet weather, because Lawrence is starting to chip away at the race lead and fancies another go at the 33 machine. Again, all the threes. 33 leads 3 with Anthony Hutchins in car 18 third place, bucking the trend of the threes. You can see a good crowd here, with everybody parked up on the outside line, come to watch the racing today. As across the line again goes Andrew Porter, and it's a fastest lap for Gary Lawrence, who pops in a 55.213 against the 55.4 from Andrew Porter earlier on. So Gary Lawrence is again starting to build momentum, uses all of the exit there. Drew, this is very disciplined stuff here from Gary Lawrence, very much focusing on his driving and the lines to close in on the race leader. And Andrew Porter is under pressure once again. We're around about 3/4 of the way through this race. Can Lawrence bag another win? It's going to be so important points-wise to do that, because as I've said, on total points scored, the gap will come down to around about 4 points. And remember, the race winner will pick up 12.5 points from this race because of the number of cars on circuit. So absolute premium. Lawrence, you can see closing in. He'll start to pick up the toe if he hasn't done already now, and he's very much under the rear spoiler of the race leader. Looks to the outside line. Is there going to be a gap on the inside coming up towards Druids? There might have been, but it was closed down by Andrew Porter, who retains the race lead, but he's under big pressure now. Let's have a look as they go into Graham Hill Bend. A good sweep there from the 33 car. This is the point where we saw Lawrence grab the lead earlier on in the race. Hasn't got the momentum to do that now, but can afford a wide sweep into Surtees and up through McLaren, which is where they're heading now. McLaren continues to go around and around to the right into Clearways, which is where they are now. Then onto Parkhurst, then onto the Brabham Straight. Fascinating stuff. And look at Lawrence using the wide line there to try and get momentum. He's going to close in as they go across the line again. Not going to be close enough at Paddock Hill Bend to have a look. Is he going to maybe look at a cutback on the inside? Not close enough to do that at the moment. And Porter has got the view that he wants, which is clear circuit out front into Druids again. 20 minutes of very physical racing from these boys, and the pressure will be felt for sure from the 33 car. Lawrence still trying to get back on terms. He'll be gutted to have had that second retirement of the season at Croft, but look at the pressure on again as they go through Surtees up into McLaren. Lost a little bit of time there, but it's still Andrew Porter who is out front. Are we going to see a first double here for Andrew Porter? That's the key story here. One race winner at Will Park at the last but one meeting, a singular win at Croft, which is a treble header as well. And this is going to be, as they go on to the last lap, a potential first double for Andrew Porter, but he's under pressure now from Gary Lawrence, who gets closer. Let's see whether Porter moves across. He does, so too does Gary Lawrence. Lawrence back to the outside line to try and get momentum into and out of Druids on the run down into Graham Hill Bend. We'll see how defensive the 33 car is. Marginally so, not overly defensive though from the 33 car, and Gary Lawrence tries to close in. He is closing in now as they go along Cooper Straight. There's not going to be a gap on the inside, or is there? Lawrence has a look, tries to pop the car down the inside line, can't quite do it. Not close enough, but Gary Lawrence, the racer in him, wanted to go for the gap. Porter is still there out front. Gary Lawrence is going to have to rely on a good line out of Clark Curve and a sprint to the flag, which is what they're doing now. Lawrence is closing up again. I think it might be too late, and Andrew Porter is going to make it a double as Lawrence tries to close in. Porter takes the win, a double for him. Lawrence in second place, and Lee Bowden is parked up on the exit of Druids. Here comes Peter Smith to win in the 924 category, so win apiece for Peter Smith and Chris Valentine. Chris taking second place. Here is Chris now. Great weekend for him with his first win with us. Great to see a fine second place there as well. Let's have a look at the result. Supersport Boxsters Win for Andrew Porter from Gary Lawrence and Anthony Hutchins, with Lee Bowden in fourth. Fastest lap, Gary Lawrence on lap 17. In the 924's, Peter Smith winning from Chris Valentine and John Jones. Peter getting the fastest lap of the race. So on drop scores, Gary Lawrence leads Andrew Porter by 12 points as we head to the next round. Nick Hull in third ahead of Anthony Hutchins, Lee Bowden, Rick Styron and Andy Baker in seventh. In the Classic 924s, Hugh Pert on 127 points, a tie for second between Pete Smith and John Jones on 105. Chris Valentine fourth ahead of Andrew Pritchard.
Andrew, 2 from 2, good weekend.
Yeah, never had 2 wins in a weekend before, and pole as well, so yeah, I'm quite happy with the weekend.
Gary was certainly pushing you there towards the end of that race. Did you feel the pressure, or were you just concentrating on what you were doing?
Sort of trying to concentrate, but when you see that big green machine coming behind you, getting closer and closer. Yeah, and towards the end my tyres were going as well, so I hung on a couple more laps. I think he probably got me, but managed to bring it home.
Gary, tough weekend this weekend here at Brands Hatch for you, but you look like you were closing up on Andy there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, he's just had the beating of me all weekend, to be fair. So he done ever so well. Yeah, I mean, my brakes and tyres went about a third way through, and by the time they came back to me, I had a little go, but I was never going to get past, to be fair. No, really good fun, great clean racing. Looking forward to Anglesey next time out.
Anthony, third place, busy racing.
Yeah, I was going to good battle with the black car behind me, but we lost touch with the leaders because I think we were battling, but they were sticking about a second a lap in, I think, over us. But it was, yeah, good race.
Pete, congratulations on your victory. Tough racing out there. Chris made it hard, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. I had plenty to do, really. Like I say, it's first time ever this weekend here, and yesterday was pouring down, so track was wet. Today was obviously driving a completely different circuit, basically. Different braking points, turning points, all that kind of stuff. So, stuck behind Chris for a few laps. Thought, you know, I'll just try and learn as much as I can. And probably about 6-7 laps in, started to get a bit faster. And then, well, when I see the lap times, I think it kept getting faster. So, yeah, great. Yeah, loved it.
Chris, superb second place on the back of your victory yesterday. You must feel like it's been a pretty good weekend.
Fantastic weekend. That's the first win I've ever had in PDA in, 6 seasons of racing, and the battle in the second race against Pete there is just awesome. I've got to thank my teammate John for having a brilliant start, pushing John a little bit, pushing Pete a little bit wide at paddock, so that was just fantastic. I got maybe 3 or 4 cars ahead of him for the first few laps, and I thought, it's in the bag, but you can't say that about Pete. He's such a hard charger, and he caught up with me in a fantastic but safe move up at Druids, saw him into the lead and sort of waved goodbye after that.
John, that was a cracking start. Almost like you had Chris there as well for a bit, but not quite in the bag, but third place anyway.
Well, yeah, third place. I'd say good start. 3 wide into Paddock Hill Bend, probably looked quite good. Unfortunately, Pete's very quick, and Chris, I didn't have the pace today. I was getting vibrations. I think I've got a wheel weight issue. It's not an excuse. The boys were quicker, but I think I achieved the lap times I was hoping for. So, all in all, yeah, good fun.